Hey guys, it's Mike with Indie Development, and this should hopefully be the last video in this series. In this video we're going to get into the actual coding part of the game. Everything up to this point has been pretty much, just setting up labels and stuff like that, and pretty basic stuff. Now we're going to get into setting which labels are visible, which are not, how we're going to position our labels in our game, and then some of them are going to be dynamically placed, how we're going to get our pieces, how we're going to set and make sure there's a matching piece for each piece that goes onto the board, and we're going to factor in like we did on the character map, our range, minimum range of 33, maximum range of 88, so we can get through those specific ranges. We're going to go over how to do all that, so this one's going to be a little bit more probably what you guys were looking for. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to actually finally make this method right here, create board. So private void create board, and all it's going to do is take, of course, the columns and the rows. Now, just to save confusion, we'll actually do number of columns, number of rows. Okay, so the first item that we're going to do in here, we're going to set some default values for every new game board that we make. So things like, we don't want the win label to be showing, so we'll set that visible to false. There's a visible false. We don't want our game over to be true because the game's not been played yet. And if you remember the game over we set up top there to let us know if the game's still being played or not. Our count's going to be set to 0. Number correct we set to 0. And our columns are going to be the number of columns that were passed in up here. If you put your mouse right there, you'll see it'll highlight down here too. So we're setting the columns to whatever that they put in there when we run the method. So whatever parameters are passed. Same with the rows. So now let's work on positioning our labels depending on what size the board is here. So, first thing that we're going to do is, let's look at the title label, I guess. Now, if you remember, when we had this graphic up here, the title label we're going to actually set over the board pieces. The width of the form is going to be calculated by the margins on the left and right side, with our spacers and pieces, and the width of our title and the width of either one of these labels, because they're going to be the same. And that's how we're going to get how wide the form should be at any time. So right now we're going to work on placing this one. So let's see here. What we're going to do with that is title.location equals new system.drawing.point. So we want to come over from the left margin, which will be 25 basically, so 25 plus, we need a number of columns that's going to be on the board. So if we got 4 columns going across, we want 4, and then divide that by 2 so we can get the halfway point of the board. And what we're going to do is times that by the piece width plus a vertical spacer. And then we're actually going to minus this by the label width divided by 2, which is half the label size. Okay, and then of course from the top, I just want a horizontal spacer. Alright, so what did that do right there? Let's see here. Let me see if I can explain it a little bit. So left margin, which we have set to 25, so you're coming over 25 pixels. Now you want to add this value right here to it. So first thing we're going to do inside these is get this value here. So you got your pizza width, which is 45 plus a vertical spacer. So if we look here, we're coming over the left margin, which is 25. Now we need to take one piece, since we're going to actually times it by the number of pieces that we got. So we can take one piece, which is 45, plus its spacer, which is 10, so it's 55. So that's 55 right there. So we want to center it over the columns, so we get half the number of columns that are on the board, times that by the width, the total width of one piece, and its spacer that goes with it. So that's going to bring us over that. Now if we did that what it was like that, that wouldn't really be completely centered like we want. We want to take half of the label size, because we want the label, to be centered on it. So we take the label width and divide it by 2, which will give us half. And what we're doing there is we're just cutting this label right here in half, because if not, it would be, it brings it over a little bit. So we're cutting that label in half there. So we want to actually inch it over some. So if we didn't do that, it would be like this. Now that we're cutting that label in half, minusing it by half of it, it's going to drag it over like that right there. And then of course the horizontal space that we added for the Y is just going to be the 25 pixels down from the top. So hopefully that makes sense. So now we'll go ahead and we'll set up the rest of these labels. It's going to be the same thing, just it's going to be exactly what we went over in the first video about how we're going to get the locations for each one. So hopefully now we explain that when you guys can follow the rest of these, and if you have any questions, just let me know and I can go over it with you. So let's do the attempts. Point, the left margin plus. Now I've already got these wrote down on the side here because I could not remember all these. So let me just copy and paste these over here. Let's see. I got them in a pad right here. Somewhere. Here we go. So I'm going to copy and paste these next two over for you. And that'll give us a little bit more time to go over it. So for the attempts, let me see if I can kind of shrink this so we can still see it while we go over it. Okay, so if you look here on the attempts, we're taking the left margin over, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add the piece width plus the horizontal spacer to it times the number of columns. So it's going to be 55, and of course I just clicked off of that. So that's going to be 55, and you're going to times that by the number of columns. Okay, and then you're going to add a horizontal spacer there for this side of it. And you'll notice that the left margin is not getting times by the number of columns, because you can see here, order operations. So you're taking 55 times the number of columns and adding that to the left margin. Then you're adding a spacer to go along with it, which actually should probably be a vertical spacer. Well, it doesn't matter, they're set the same, so anyway, it should be a vertical spacer, I think. Alright, and then this is going to be your X value. Now your Y value is going to be label underscore title dot location dot Y. So you're getting where this Y location is, which will be the top here. And then you want to add the height to it, so that'll bring you to the bottom of the label. And then a spacer, so come down here. So like it would be, this one's already got the top margin added into it because it's positioned below the top margin, which is 25 pixels down. That would be its Y, would be 25. And then you're going to add the height of this label. So that's going to give you another, I think we have it 25, so it's 50. and then you're going to add the spacer down to it, which will be another 10, which this should be a horizontal spacer. But like I said, it doesn't matter because they're both the same size. So that's got that. So that will actually bring it down to right here. So again, it's just like it's here at the top of the page. It's going to bring it down to its Y, add on to its height, which will bring it down to about right there. And then it's going to add on 10 for a spacer. So that'll bring us right over like that. Because that's the Y. Now the X, so like if you got your spacer here, and then we added the X, which would take us, so it's going to start here. I'll do this one more time real quick. So now our X is going to come over left margin, which is 25. We're going to come over number of columns, the piece and the spacer times the number of columns, so it's going to take us all the way over here. Then you're going to add a spacer onto that, which is another 10. So it'll be something like right in here probably. Now our Y, like we said, is going to bring us down here to the top of this one. Add the height of it, which will bring us down there, and then add 10 more to it. So it's going to be sitting like that. And this one we're going to line up right under it. So you see this here, the correct location is going to be left margin again. Nothing changed there. It's all the same. Go ahead and make it. Well, that's fine. So, and you'll see here it's the label attempts, which is this one, .y. So that would actually bring you here. And then you're going to add the height of that spacer, or the height of that label, then add a spacer to it, so it's going to bring you right under it. And that's how we kind of position those. Hopefully it was easy to follow. And the only other two labels we have left is the win and lose label. So what we're going to do for that is simply we're going to set those. They are going to, I think I got a, yeah. They're going to be set to 0, 0, which means they'll fill the board because they're going to be right here. They don't have a size set to them right now, so they're just, they're very small. But the reason that these are always going to be all over the screen, except we're going to set their visibility right here to false, so you won't actually be able to see them. So we need to set these to 0, 0, so they'll always start drawing at the top left corner, and then we can set their width and height, which will bring them down to cover the window. So simple LBL underscore win dot location, or whatever you called your label, equals new system dot drawing dot point 0, 0. That will be the top left corner. So copy that, paste it, and just change that from win to lose. And now we have our positioning set up for that. So now what we need to do, we need to go ahead and set some form width and height, and then we'll take that width and height and apply it to not only the form size, but we'll also apply it to the win and lose label so they fill the screen, so they're the whole size of the form. So let's do that. Okay, so first thing is, and now that we've went over these up here, I'm not really going to go in depth about how we do the math for the width and all that here. You should be able to follow them pretty easy. And if you want to add a little bit more width to it than exact size, you can just add additional spacers to it, or you can just make another variable to store a number, or just add an amount to it. So you can play around with that. Just going to do this real quick. Let's see. Okay, so our form width is going to be our left margin plus our piece and spacer times number of columns, which is going to give you all the columns in there, plus the label attempts width and the right margin. So that should be pretty easy to follow for everybody. And our height is going to take in, just like we said before, our top margin. We need the piece height plus a spacer times the number of rows instead of columns this time. And these should not actually be num, they should be, well, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be the same thing, so that's fine. You could either use num columns here, or you can use cols that we set here. It's fine either way. Let's see, where was that here? Top margin, piece size, vertical spacer, rows, and you'll need to. We're going to actually add a little bit more space here. So, like I said before, if you want to add more space to it, let's try doing 3 more spacers. Yeah, let's do that. So, okay, and this would actually be horizontal. Width would be vertical spacers. I'm trying to do this top of my head here. I think actually, let's see. This way, in case you actually want a different horizontal. This would be width. So let's see. Oh, I can't spell. There we go. Alright, so your X would be the vertical spacer. Vertical. All depends on which way you're going to look at your spacers. If the ones laying down are going, I'm thinking that the vertical would be like that. No, vertical, horizontal. Okay, that should have them right now. Okay, so this right here is just going to add us 30 more pixels onto the height of the form. And let's see. Now all we have to do, since we have our form width and height, is set the size of the form. So size would be the same thing as doing this dot size, and this is referring to the form 1. So size equals new system dot drawing dot size, form width for the width, and form height for the height. Now every time we make a board, it's going to take in all this math here, and it's going to automatically generate a width and a height for us, and it's going to apply that to the size of the form. So for overlays, we need to go ahead and set those up. Size equals, and we'll just copy and paste this. And we'll do that for the loose too. There's that. Okay, so now that we got that, let's look at how we can get the number of the play pieces. Simply, the number of the play pieces is the number of the rows and columns that we have on the board here. So the number of play pieces equals your cols times rows. And like I said, you could use either way. You could use columns, or you could use num columns. I was thinking, like before, I usually use the same thing here as I do down here, and I just put a this on there. So that's why let me just go through here and change this for you. So if we go here, I'll just open up a find window, quick replace. In the selection, we want to find, replace it with, we don't want to do that one, we'll do this one. Okay, it's got all that. Okay. stay consistent here. Alright, so now we got our pieces. We need to get how many pairs. So let's get the number of pairs, and that's simply pairs equals pieces divided by 2. Alright. So now let's see what we gotta do here. Alright, so now let's set up our pieces, and we'll set up our game labels. Okay. So piece equals new string number of pieces. So there's our array for piece. Now game label equals and label calls rows. Okay. So that sets that up. Okay, so now, sorry about that. So now what we need to do is set up, let's see, what else we got up here? Kind of threw me off a little bit there. Okay, so we can do the attempts. Yeah, let's do attempts next. Okay, so let's have the number of attempts for the board. And you can do this however you want. What I found after I was looking around is, I tried a bunch of different ones when I was doing it. Pairs times 3 I think worked pretty well. And that gives them, a little bit of space to mess up a couple times before the game will be over. That way they don't have to find a piece every time they click. And then we want to, since we're setting that, another thing I noticed that I did up top there is I put 2 string on these. These don't actually have to have 2 string on them. I think I fixed it before I put the code up. But no, I didn't. So see, like these right here, you don't have to have 2 string on these. It'll print it out just fine. Okay, so if you like to put 2 string on, that's fine too, if you want to do that. So that's got that set up. Well, we need to reset the other label. Since the number correct has now been set to 0, let's go ahead and whoops. Okay. And let's see here. What else do we need to do? Probably about time to get into our ranges here. Okay. And we'll do our ranges next. Okay, so let's get into actually setting up our pieces and it'll work. So, let's see. So like I said before, we're going to set our initial character to work with, and then we're going to get that random number to increment it by each time that we're going to set a new pair up. So let's do that real quick. Initial, whoops. What do we call that? I thought we called it initial. Oh. Well. Try that again. There we go. Equals rand.next. and we're going to do the min range, max range, and we're going to do a +1. Now why we're going to do that is because if we didn't do a +1, it would never go to our max range, it would just go the number under it. So you could actually put your max range one above what you'd want, but I usually just do it this way. Okay, your increment value will be equal to random.next. And we'll do just a 1 there to the increment value that we set up. So it'll be between 1 and that value as we add a +1 to it. You can set up a variable for this too if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and we'll set up our pieces real quick. Well, I guess it would be run this loop since we're actually going to make it. Okay, so that's right there's what we're going to do. So what we do is I'll set up a for loop. And you see we don't have to do int I equals 0 anymore because now we already declared I up top. So I equals 0, I is less than the pairs that we have, and we increment I. If you chose not to set up your I up top, you have to put int I there. Okay, so now set the match pieces. Piece I equals. Alright, so here's how we're going to get our character. It's going to be char dot convert from UTF-32 initial. Okay, so that's going to give us our character. And now piece I plus pairs. Now what we're going to do here is if this will give us our pairs, that way we're only doing half of the length of the array because we're only going to do half of it. So if this is how we're going to do the full amount of the array, is we're setting 1 to the piece, then we're adding that number to it in the array to get the next one. So we're doubling up, and that will actually bring us to the full size of our array. So piece I plus pairs equals, and the same thing, char dot convert from UTF-32 initial. And now we're going to have to get the next character, so it would be initial plus equals increment. So get the next character. Alright. Must have misspelled that. That's what it was. Okay. And now we need to see, once we get the increment value added to the initial, which is always going to be what character we get, if it's going to go over 88, we need to set it back down to 33. So what we're going to do there is okay, so if initial is greater than the max range, we just want to put it to the min range. Okay, and now that we have it, we want to, this will run and give us all our pieces. So now we want to kind of randomize that. Now you can run this as many times as you like to keep scrambling the board over and over and over until, you know, however many times you want to do it. So let's see here. Is less than. Now right here's where you would put the number of times to scramble the board. So let's just do it 20 times. Okay. So now the way we're going to get the pieces is we need to get the piece that is in the place that we're getting first, put it into a temporary place, and then get the second piece and then exchange them out. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do string temp equals a null string. Then we're going to do first piece equals random dot next 1 2 piece dot length. So the length of the piece array. Then we're going to need a second piece. Okay. So now we have all the pieces that we need to do this. So now we just need to kind of put one in temporary, swap the other one, and swap the first one into the next one. And simply we're just going to temp equals piece, first piece. Then we're going to do piece, first piece equals piece, second piece. And then we're going to replace the second piece with what we have stored in the temp. So, see if this makes sense. Alright, we're going to take whatever the random number is, whichever index of the array that we got for the first piece, we're going to replace it with the index that we got for the second piece. So basically she's going to put whatever's in this value here at this index and replace and overwrite this value. But we're not going to lose that value because we put it into a temporary value first. So now at this point both the first piece and the second piece equal the same thing. But now down here when we do this, we're going to take the value and overwrite what's in the index that we got for the second piece and override that with the temporary piece which we got from the first. So it just basically swaps them around. And you can run that as many times as you want. I think 20 should be more than efficient. So now we need to get into how we're going to set up the gameplay pieces. And once we set up those gameplay pieces, we need to display, when the user clicks on that label, we need to display the match to the user, whatever is on the card. And of course we need to add all the labels that we're getting ready to make onto the board as well. So let's go ahead and we'll do that real quick. We'll call this a layout for the game board. Okay, so for I equals 0, I is less than the columns, increment I. Now, inside this we're going to have to run another loop, another for loop, for j equals 0. J is less than the rows. J needs to be incremented. Alright, and now we are ready to loop through our game labels array and add our labels and set up their size, the name, the colors, what font we're going to be using, locations, and all that. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're only going to do this one time, and then it's actually going to loop through all the array and set them all up for us. So game labels j equals new label, game labels j, and if you want you can just go ahead and copy that because we're going to be using that a little bit here. Let's go ahead and set the auto size, and there's a train, sorry for that. Defaults. So now we need game labels. Since we set the auto size defaults, let's go ahead and set the size to what size we want, which is simply new draw or system.drawing size piece width piece height. Alright, so game labels ij dot. Now we need to name the label. Name equals the count to string. Okay. And we're going to get into using the count here in a second. Basically, every time we iterate through this array, we're going to increase the count. So that's how we're going to get a unique name for each label. And I'll show you why we need that a little bit later. Alright, so now we're going to set their text equal to null. Set their back color equals equals color dot from argb, and I just chose to use 234, 126, and 0. Making some kind of a little bit of bright colors here, and then the forecolor is going to be black, so it's color dot. You can either do color dot, I think you can do color dot black, that's fine, but I'm just going to do ARGB 0, 0, 0. Okay. And what else do we need? We have to set the font on. And what we're going to do there is font equals label font. And you may have named this something different. It's just going to be the font here that holds their wingdings. Set it to that, whatever you named yours. Okay. And what else do we need to do? The locations, and this right here, a little bit more math. Equals new system drawing point. Okay, so we're going to take to get the location, you need to take the left margin again. Left margin. You're going to have to add to j plus there times the spacer plus j times the piece width. And I'm sure you guys can follow along with this. It's the same stuff we've been doing for the other pieces. Location.y plus title.height. And again, if you have any questions on what I'm doing, you can just leave a comment on the website or the video. Just don't want to bore you all to death with going over the same kind of math over and over. Plus times piece height. Okay, let me make sure I'm right here. It's kind of jumbled on. It might be easier for you guys to read if I just put it out first. It'd be easier for me to read too, so I can make sure I don't mess up. Okay. Yep, that should do it. Okay. And let's do the text align. And I'll probably go ahead and I'll return this down now. That way it's not too wide for when I put the code on the website for you guys. System.drawing.content alignment, just like we did at the top there. Middle center. I'm going to set the visibility to true. And now we need to attach an event handler that's going to happen to this label when it's clicked on. And we're going to do that in our next method. So let's go ahead and attach it. .click plus equals new system.event handler. this dot, and we'll call it display match. And we're going to write that in just a second. Alright, so now we got that set up. We need to add the label to the form, just like we did above. Nothing new here. Okay, so I'll comment for you guys so you know what we're doing in each part. Alright, and now that we've done it, we need to increment the count. Okay, so now you can see that we've used the count to actually name the label, and we're going to use that hand in hand in the display match, and you'll see how we're going to bring it together. Okay, so that should be all for that. Now we're going to set up this this method here, and it's not going to be actually all that much code to do. This right here was the bulk of the code, so let's go ahead and set that up. So private void display match sender RD. Alright, and you'll see that's good to go now. So what are we going to do in here? Alright, so first off we got to see if our delay timer is enabled. So delay. So basically what we're doing here, the delay timer is enabled, return and do nothing. Okay, so that means, you know, if the delay timer is enabled and we're giving them that time to look at the pieces, and so they can see if they match or not, and if they don't, they can kind of see what's in each part before it disappears. We don't want them to be able to go around clicking on the other ones or nothing. We want it to do nothing. Alright, so now let's see. Now we need to set up like how we're going to get what they click on and what values and see if they match. So let's go ahead and set up the label that they clicked on. Match choice. Alright, so that's just going to be label match choice equals sender as label. So we're getting the label that they clicked on here. When they clicked on it, you know, they clicked on this label, which will be the sender. So we're getting that as the label. Alright. Now we need to see if you'll remember that we have up top here where do we put it? Right here. We have these two labels right here used to check for matches. So we need to get that label that they clicked on, and we need to see if there's anything in this one yet. If there's not, we'll store it. If they already have a first selection, we'll put the label they clicked on into the second selection, and then we'll use that to see if they match or not. Okay, so come back down here. If first we see if there's nothing in the first selection, so if no matches currently selected, first selection equals null. That means we don't have anything selected on the screen yet. First selection equals match choice. And all we did there was set first selection to this label. Okay, so now we need to pull out whatever string value is in their corresponding piece array, and then we'll set that to that label's text value, which will then, it makes it look like, you know, you click that label, okay, well, you know, it showed us what was behind the label, but it wasn't really there. We're just using this count here to name the label, and then what we're going to do is whatever is at that this count index in our pieces array, which we've done right here. It's going to display that to the user by setting its text, this label's text, to that value. So let's go ahead, pull the string, responding piece array, and set labels text value. So first selection dot text equals piece. Now this is going to be, we want to convert it over, convert to int 32 match choice dot name. Okay, bring that over like that. Alright, so, but what if we already have a match selected? We need to go ahead and deal with the second selection. So, okay, else if second selection equals null, and this is very important here, first selection does not equal match choice. We don't want them to be able to select the same label twice, because that will just, be a real easy game to win. You just click, 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 and then go through the board. Alright, so if we don't have anything in our second selection, and our first selection does not match, is not the label that they're trying to click on, then we need to go ahead and set this up. Pretty much the basic thing we did above, nothing new. So I'll go ahead and just copy and paste this over basically. So this will be second selection. Okay, now the only thing different here is we are going to need to start the delay timer, because now they have something for each selection. We don't want them to be able to select anything again, so we need to start this. If not, what will happen is it won't work, because they can be able to click around, but we want them to be delayed to where they can look at the two cards. So let's delay start, and this will stop it from just automatically just going with it. So two pieces are selected. Okay. So now delay start. So that's going to come into our tick, and it's going to, let's go ahead and go over what we've done here. First, let's go ahead and try to run it. It should be working now. Maybe. Let's see. Label attempts. Correct and win. Did I misspell these or something? Oh, because I copied and pasted. That would be why. So excuse me for that. This will be attempts. I'll make sure to go back into the previous code posted on the website, and I will change that. So label correct. One thing about copying and pasting, you really need to make sure you change what you're supposed to, I guess. Okay. Alright. Now let's see what happens. There we go. So now we could change the name of the form too. So you'll have this right here. You got 6 attempts, and because they are 2 pairs, and you times that by 3, click a label. It's going to show that, and then now it didn't disappear nothing. You have to click another one. Okay, you got a few seconds there to see the 2 before they disappeared. So there's the folder again. They match, goes away, and you get it correct. Now, that kind of went fast there. So you saw that you win, and now we've it was 2 columns by 2 rows. Now it's 4 columns by 4 rows. You get 24 attempts. You click, those didn't match. Took an attempt away. Those did. So you can just click around. See if we can get a loose screen here. So see, they have plenty of time to try to match things. You'll notice that there's 2 things up. They can't click another until they, well, crap, no, we can do that until they go away. See, they can't hit that 3rd one. But it's not up so long that they have to sit there and wait forever to be able to play again. But long enough to get in memory like where it's at. See, now you got to lose and it restarted the board. Same amount of columns, same amount of rows. So, pretty basic game. I'd like to see where you guys can go with it. Now, if you were to play this, each time you do it, it's going to double the columns and rows. So it's not actually a good way to increase, because unless you set the max amount max amount of column and rows. Because if somebody's sits there and plays it, it's gonna go up, get humongous. So I like to see where you guys can go with it. Another thing you might want to try to do is recreate this project, but actually use the design view. And now that you know what it's doing for you in the background, you should be able to recreate this project pretty quickly. You want to do all this stuff here. Even the timers, you can pull them out and set them up. But hopefully you guys liked this. It was easy to follow. If you have any questions on it, something I didn't cover that you thought I should have covered more of, or anything like that, let me know. Feel free to let me know if you do work around with this and make something else. Like, maybe put a menu system up there where they can start new games, select difficulties, stuff like that. I'd really like to see what you guys can do. So if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave it here at the video or over at the indiedevelopment.co website. And if you haven't went to the website yet and joined up and signed up, please do so. And if you guys have any other kind of tutorials or something that you would like, just let me know. Thanks.